Good morning, and welcome to a mailbag edition of After the Buzzer. I'm Couper Moorhead, and the Heat are in the middle of a bit of a break. They've got 5 days off, so we figured why not take some questions from social media, see what people want to find out about this team, take a little bit of a dive, and what can we talk about. So we won't waste any time getting right to it. Let's start with our first question, which comes from Rohan. Thank you for the question, Rohan. And it's about the Heat's shot profile. He asks, aside from Tyler, how much difference have you seen in the shot profile of this team? With Tyler, obviously, we know he's cut out almost all of his mid-range looks, particularly the pull-up two-pointers that he generally took in years past. He's eliminated those, added a few shots at the rim, mostly added a ton of three-pointers. So that's where his shot profile has shifted. And with the Heat, it's pretty much the same thing. We'll just go back to last year, a couple of percentages to throw your way. The rim attempts, 28.5% of their attempts, their total offense came at the rim last year. This year, 29.2%. About the same. The mid-range, 35.6% last year. This year, 29.6%. So a lot of that's probably Tyler. But still, the overall team shot profile has been impacted by one of their highest usage guys. So mid-range shots way down 3%. The percent of their offense that comes from three, 35.9% last year, up to 41.2% this year. That's a pretty significant change, right? Again, a lot of it's Tyler. It's probably too early to really talk about the team's shot profile, broadly speaking, because Jimmy has missed time. He takes some mid-range shots. Jaime has missed some time. He takes some mid-range shots. Bam's offense was a little slow going as far as his usage in the first week or two. It's picked up late. Bam takes some mid-range shots. So we'll see how it evens out over time, especially as they face different defenses, different schemes. But for now, the team shot profile is generally reflecting what Tyler has done, cutting out the mid-range, few more rim attempts, a lot more three-point attempts. And that seems to be what the goal was coming into the season. That's what Erik Spoelstra's focus was, upping the threes. They've accomplished that so far. All right, so next question comes from Manny Gonzalez. Manny tried to sneak two in under the buzzer at the last moment. We might let him get away with that because the second one's pretty quick. First one from Manny is, I'd be interested in the defensive metrics of the Bam-Highsmith pair. Didn't ask that in the form of a question, but we're not playing Jeopardy rules, so that's okay. I had no doubts before even looking this up that the Bam-Highsmith minutes when those two are on the floor together would be really good because they've always been really good. This year in 192 minutes, those two have a defensive rating, which means the number of points you allow per 100 possessions. We pace adjust per possession to even out the playing field, make it more apples to apples across teams who play at different speeds. In 192 minutes, those two have a defensive rating of 106.3. It's pretty good. This year, that would rank number 5. Early season numbers are very fluid. But 106.3 last year would have been number 1. Would have been the best defense in the league over Minnesota, over Boston. That's just with Bam and Haywood on the floor together. So really good minutes. You can't really fault anything that's going on there. Haywood, as we've talked about a number of times, I will keep talking about throughout the season, is one of the most important players in the Heat. Doesn't get a lot of publicity, doesn't get a lot of attention because he's a soft-spoken guy. He doesn't really seek the spotlight. He lets his play do the talking for him. So we'll do a little talking for him in that case because he's unbelievably important to this team as one of the few sort of proven veteran high-level defenders on this team around Bam. And when he's on the floor, Bam has, he's the anchor. He's in the middle. He's playing a lot of drop coverage. He's trying to keep everything together. With Haywood, he has a guy who can switch across multiple positions, guard high-level players no matter who they are. And it just makes Bam's life much easier because now Bam has to cover less for everybody else because there's less, fewer guys getting beat. The ball's not getting downhill as much. So Haywood, unbelievably important. Now, when you look at two-man lineups, two-man groupings like that, lineup data, you have to double-check opponent three-point percentage because that tends to fluctuate wildly. If your defensive rating on the floor is great, but the opponent is shooting 15% from three, which defenses tend to only have a little bit of control of. That's tough to hold a team to 15% from three overall. That can mess with your numbers a bit. The good news is when Bam and Haywood are on the floor together, their opponents are shooting 35.1% from three. Almost bang on average. That means the numbers aren't really being messed with. That means you feel a little bit better about 106.3 being sort of the baseline number rather than being affected either way by 3-point percentage. So Bam and Haywood on the floor together, great defense. Can't really complain about anything there. Haywood, unbelievably important. Bam should be a Defensive Player of the Year candidate again down the road. Manny's second question, we'll let him get it in real fast. What's the comparison look like on Bam's three-pointers taken season versus preseason? Quickly, in preseason, Bam was obviously trying to get a lot of threes up, trying to make that a part of his game. It was a big point of emphasis. Spo talked about it. Preseason, he took 7.3 threes per 100 possessions. That was a lot. Never really felt like he was going to do that in the regular season. It was just making a point to get them up and get into that rhythm during preseason. Regular season, that 7.3 is dropped to 3.4 per 100, which translates per game, 2.5 per game. That's about where you would have thought Bam would end up based on how much of a point he was making to take threes. Look, his previous high was 0.6 threes per game. He's up at 2.5. I don't know what you couldn't really ask anymore. He's up over 30%, still pretty low volume, so we need to let the numbers play out over time to see where the percentages end up. If he gets up to 35, 36%, that's when we'll probably see defense eventually start to adjust. That's when the magic happens. If the defenses start to adjust to Bam's threes, you all of a sudden you have gravity. You're a stretch five now, space for drivers. That'll be great. We'll see how that ends up. For now, he's taking 2.5 threes a game. I don't think you can ask much more of that. Generally, if a center is taking 4+ a game, that's as many as anybody takes in the league from a center position. All right, next up we have GT. GT asks, has Tyler Herro's defense been better this season? Seems like effort is up and he's being hunted less by opposing teams. Well, GT has astutely noticed by the eye test something that the numbers are reflecting as well, which is that Tyler's only defending 3.6 isolations per 100 possessions this year, according to our tracking data, which is actually the lowest number since his rookie year. So in a sense, he is getting hunted less because he's defending fewer one-on-one situations, fewer isolations. There are some reasons for that. Again, early in the season, maybe he's played fewer teams that have that matchup hunting style, so you need to let this play out over time. We'll see. Tyler, I think if you ask him, he'll acknowledge the fact that he's never going to be an elite, all defensive team kind of a guy. In preseason, Tyler was averaging a ton of steals. Those numbers in the regular season have come down a bit. He's kind of right in line with his career norms as far as steals per game. I'm not really worried about that. I think the intention with Tyler has always been there. He's gotten better defensively every season. The steals, they come and go, but he becomes a playmaker in certain spots. He's been really good weak side, playing the passing lanes, particularly in the zone. And that's what you want to see. You want to see the intention. You want to see the effort. You want to see the give bleep. That's what you want to see from him. I think we have gotten that out of Tyler. He'll make plays against DeMar DeRozan. He had that slap down on one of DeRozan's late shots. Timed it really well. That's not something Tyler has done in the past. Timing, making plays with his hands on the ball. So he's doing things. He's being a playmaker. I always tell the story about J.J. Redick. J.J. Redick, early in his career with Orlando, didn't play a lot for Stan Van Gundy because he wasn't very good defensively, but he worked on it. Didn't become an above-average defender by any means, but he became good positionally. He was where he was supposed to be. He did the things he was supposed to do within the system. Tyler has been on that path for the last few years, and I think generally he's in the right spots. He doesn't make a lot of mental mistakes. If he gets beat, it's because he's a smaller guy and he gets beat by someone who's going to come right at him and challenge him. That's okay. Tyler's great value is on the offensive end, but he's made himself into a better defender every year incrementally. Last year, his defensive estimated plus minus, which is kind of an all-in-one defensive stat, was a career best last year, which was about kind of hovered around league average. This year it's a little lower, small sample size, so as we go on, maybe it'll get back to that career best level he was at last year. And if that's the case, then you're sitting pretty. So that's it for Tyler. Last question comes from Schulte Dad. This one won't really have any numbers. He just asks, what does Spo want to see from Ware before putting him on the floor? I'm just going to say this about Kel'el. I don't really think it's fair to him. You know, if the Heat lose a game, it's not fair to Kel'el to say, well, this young rookie should be on the floor, because that puts the pressure on him. That makes it like Kel'el has to come in and save the team. That's not his responsibility right now. He's a rookie. He's learning a lot. When he's on the floor, you can see the easy athleticism, long block shots, finishes alley-oops, looks great. Some highlights. Obviously, there's some stuff to work on processing-wise. The game is fast for most rookies. The hardest position defensively to learn, to me, defense for rookies, is center. On offense, it's point guards. You have to learn how to read all the different coverages. For rookies, centers, you have to sit back. Guys are always coming at you. You're defending a ton of pick and rolls. You're defending the best players in the game. They're challenging you. And that's what happens with rookie centers. Spo will play him when Spo feels like he's ready to play him. He didn't play Bam a ton early in his rookie year. Bam eventually started a bit because Hassan Whiteside that season got hurt. But Bam wasn't a starter. He wasn't always in the rotation, his rookie year. Kel'el's probably in a bit of the same spot. You just have to learn. That's the league. I just don't want to put anybody to put pressure on him to be the savior of this team or of the defense. Spo will play him when he's ready. By all means, he's a good kid. He's working behind the scenes, and I don't want to hear anything about, you can't improve if you're not getting game reps. You absolutely can improve if you're not getting game reps. That's the whole point of the Heat's developmental program, is to get guys ready for games behind the scenes with how they develop players. Tyler Herro worked on his game over the summer. Those weren't game reps, but he came into this year looking like he is right now. He's been incredible on the offensive end. You can get better without playing in games. I'm pretty sure Kel'el will do that. The Heat development program will bring him along. When Spo thinks he's ready for more minutes, he'll play more minutes. That's how Spo has handled rookies in the past. Last year, Jaime Jaquez Jr., a little older, more polished player. He played more early on. Kel'el is a younger guy, playing a different position, more to learn. Give him time to learn. That's all rookies deserve, As long as the intentions are right, give them time. So that's it. That's our mailbag for today. Thank you for everybody for throwing in questions. If I didn't get to your question, that means probably I think it's one that's better answered down the road when we have a bigger sample size, we play more games, and I can get a bit into more big picture, top-down things like that if you asked a bigger picture question. So that's it. Thank you for joining us today on After the Buzzer, and we'll see you next time from the Kaseya Center. Take care.